So anyway, on the subject of dying for Israel, war's back on, boys.
And the U.S. military now says overnight it intercepted 2 Iranian ballistic missiles targeting American forces in Kuwait, adding, though, that no American personnel were harmed in this. This comes as the U.S. says that it hit Iranian military sites overnight in defensive attacks.
We are seeing new footage of missile launches broadcast from Iran today. CNN cannot confirm where or when this video was shot, but it was shown on Iranian state media as both the U.S. and Iran...
I don't watch films based on their politics, by the way. I wouldn't recommend Disco Elysium if it wasn't the best written game of all time. Disco Elysium is exceptional because of how it's written. If Disco Elysium was a fascist game, I'd still recommend people play it.
Reported new exchanges of fire over the weekend. And as US President Donald Trump requests changes to the proposed Memorandum of Understanding with Tehran, which is meant to build on the existing, somewhat shaky ceasefire. Let's get a read on where things stand this hour. Our international diplomatic editor, Nick Robertson, is with us for that.
They're
Nick,
both British?
A very basic question at this point. How long can this go on for?
Yeah, it's hard to know because it did seem, and everyone knows this, that last weekend...
But CNN is American. Why am I listening to British people? This is fucked up, man.
Kim Dozier and CNN military analyst Colonel Cedric Leighton. Kim, to you first. Is the ceasefire essentially over? Are we at square one here, or is this kind of a...
Yep, that is what happens when two countries have a ceasefire, but then they start bombing each other again. That is, like, ceasefire is the most molested thing on earth, that term, outside of, like, any child around Trump. Is the ceasefire... Iran has bombed America and America has bombed Iran. Are we done with the we are resuming fire. Does that mean we're done with the cessation of fire?
Typical thing during warfare that they're going to be exchanging fire.
Yeah, we're still in the small skirmish level. We haven't seen the U.S. return to all-out strikes together with Israel across Iran. But we are coming to a date on the calendar which has got some of us a little bit anxious. You know, Saudi Arabia had asked the White House to delay a return to strikes and try to make a deal, but at least to delay strikes until the end of the Hajj. And that's about now, when you've got Eid and celebrations. So you could see President Trump sending this text back that Elena talked about, and if Iran says no, perhaps a return to strikes, which Israel has been pushing for. Then again, we haven't seen President Trump...
I know he's probably lying and it doesn't mean much, but Trump has already said talks are back on. Yeah, because he saw Brent jump 9% in 1 hour. Yeah, I bet he did. We'll get to that later. Trump responds after Iran ends all negotiations with the U.S. per CNBC. I really don't care. I couldn't care less. He also said he was, quote, going to ask Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, quote, what's going on with Lebanon? I'm going to be real. I genuinely don't know how MAGA Republicans haven't, like, punched their own ticket yet. It's the most embarrassing political ideology in human history. I genuinely can't imagine a more humiliating. Like, just every day you're delivered blow after blow from your guy. Remember when we were watching, was it Michael Knowles? Who the fuck? Well, I don't know. These people all look the same to me. That we were watching him and he was like really insistent every 2 minutes that Trump is his own boy and Trump doesn't listen to Netanyahu. Benny Johnson, remember that? He was like insecurely insisting at every point, like, yeah, that's what it looks like when Trump isn't cucked by Israel, but then you still have to wake up and smell the roses. All this would require chuds to have shame. I guess, yeah, it does. It does help that they're literally like subhuman a little bit. It does help a little bit. Man, oh man. I'm tired of the Axios articles. Can we ban them? Yeah, but I don't know if I've explicitly said this on stream, and I imagine this segment will get a decent number of views because the war's back on. But Axios should never be trusted for anything. They have been used explicitly as the info drop from the Trump admin to do rug pulls. Axios has been the #1 outlet that's been reporting the Trump is on the verge of a deal with Iran. They have done it actually nearly a dozen times. It's always through Axios, and it's always in anticipation of a big rug pull, a big bump, and then a drop. Every single time, without exception. Axios, whoever's managing, or I don't know, like at what level, Axios is, I don't know if it's their ownership or their editor team or whatever, but they are like in collaboration with the White House to do the rug pulls. They've always been this scummy. They're staffed by Republican-aligned DC Access reporters and staff. Makes sense, yeah. They get pretty much any scoop. That's why they're written like that. Barack Ravid is literally a deep state asset. Which state? Axios.com or some other Axios? No. This Axios. This one right here. Oh, look at this. Look, speaking of, by the way, number one right here, Lebanese official says Hezbollah ready for full ceasefire with Israel. Right there, like literally. This is all they do. They are completely 100% committed to the rug pulls. No, Hezbollah is not ready for a full ceasefire with Israel. That's just a lie. Israel's still invading Lebanon. Also, what would a Lebanese official know about what Hezbollah wants? The Lebanese government and Hezbollah are practically at war with each other. The Speaker of the Lebanese parliament told the Trump administration on Sunday that Hezbollah is ready for a full and immediate ceasefire. This, again, never, ever, ever trust Axios. Never trust Axios for anything. Axios of evil? You got him. You got him. Got their asses. Barack Ravid is an Israeli asset? Really? He's literally... Yes. Pretty straightforwardly, yeah. Anyway. Okay. War. So don't trust Axios. Any particular reason why you think Axios is the most rug pullish outlet? I think it's just because they have no integrity as a journalistic outlet. Like, they basically exist to provide spark notes on whatever their Access journalists last heard in DC. They have a bunch of scumfuck reporters whose job it is to get any whisper they can and then immediately drop it to the press. They don't have, like, journalists in the sense that you have like a person with some training and integrity who's trusted by people in DC, and they talk with them and work things out. They just like get an info and immediately run to it. They have over and over and over again. They have done this. Axios. They've done this rug pull bit. Anyway, at any rate, it's all a complete lie. Iran has said unambiguously, unequivocally that they are suspending talks with the United States. They are not doing this anymore.
It is suspending talks with the United States. That's according to Iranian media, which says the decision is in protest over Israel's attacks in Lebanon. CNN's Oren Lieberman following this story for us. Let me just read for our viewers what we've just heard from the foreign minister in Iran. He said the US and Israel are responsible for the consequences of any violation. He says the ceasefire between Iran and the US is unequivocally a ceasefire on all fronts. Trump is claiming a ceasefire in Lebanon? What? Wait, this is from 40 minutes ago. I had a very productive call with Netanyahu. I had a good call with Hezbollah. They agreed all shooting will stop. You did not talk to Hezbollah. No, you didn't. You did not have a call with Hezbollah. You just talked to Netanyahu, and then you're saying, I called John Hezbollah. Oh my God. Okay, so again, the same pattern has always played out here, right? Like, bad news, and then Trump immediately runs to media to lie about it. Guys, the fighting's back on. Iran and the United States have exchanged fire. There's literally no point in covering what Trump has to say. He's a fucking idiot, and he is out of his depth, and he has failed over and over and over again to get a grapple on the situation. Trump has wriggled his way out of basically every problem he has ever had as president or between presidencies during Biden because A, his enemies were weak, and B, his problems were largely abstract, legal, speculative, PR related. You know what I mean? There's something that you can fix with words. This is a physical shortage of oil, and Iran is not weak. In fact, they're actually less weak than ever. We'll talk about it in a bit, but it seems like pardon me for being a bit of an IRGC hardliner, their weak-ass president is getting ousted. We'll talk about that in a bit. Violation on one front is a violation of the ceasefire on all fronts. What do we understand to be going on at this point?
Well, just moments ago, Becky, we got our first evacuation warning from the Israeli military for Beirut, for the southern suburb of Dahya. The Israeli military,
get the fuck out.
Rather, the Israeli political leadership, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Israel Katz, had said that they would now begin and were planning to strike Beirut and the Dahya neighborhood, considered a Hezbollah stronghold. Up until now, Israel had largely refrained from striking Beirut. We saw...
Wait, sorry, I misheard what he said. They're calling for an evacuation order in Beirut. So I do not... hold on. I'd like to retract my "get the fuck out" statement. I think the people of, I think the residents of Beirut have every right to stay in their homes. I misheard. I apologize.
one strike on
You do not, in fact, have to hand it to the IDF drone strikes.
May 28th. We saw another on May 6th after the ceasefire. These were both after senior Hezbollah commanders, but largely because of pressure from the Trump administration, Israel had not attacked the Lebanese capital, keeping most of its strikes towards southern Lebanon and lately to the Bekaa Valley. So
Israeli ceasefire, dude. Oh, ceasefire? Okay, we'll lessen our bombing of the capital, but we'll continue to bomb and conquer southern Lebanon.
this is opening up a new wave of attacks as well as an escalation in the ongoing, frankly, ongoing conflict between Israel and Iran's proxy Hezbollah. So given that we just saw the evacuation warning coming from Israel's military for Dahya, we expect that there will be strikes there, potentially even imminently. And although we hadn't seen strikes to this point, once that announcement came from Israel, we have seen this video of people and residents in Dahya fleeing ahead of those strikes to try to get out of that area. Again, Lebanon.
How'd you mishear that? Remember that while I'm watching these videos, I'm also always keeping an eye on chat, so I have to read and listen at the same time. Why is the Lebanese government so pathetic? Vassal state of the West. Hezbollah represents the interest of Lebanon, specifically its interest to not get invaded and conquered by Israel. I know people in my sub got mad when I said that, as though there's like a significant portion of the Lebanese population that's so giddy about the idea of Beirut being turned into another fucking enclave Jerusalem. But nah, I'd say Hezbollah is doing the work of the people here. Sorry.
Is a country that has seen more than, I believe, 1.2 million people displaced by Israeli strikes and evacuation warnings. And this, of course, will add to that now that Israel has made it clear it is striking Beirut. Here's what Netanyahu had to say earlier today.
Together with the Minister of Defense, I have instructed the IDF to strike terrorist targets in Beirut. There will not be a situation in which Hezbollah attacks our cities and our citizens, and its terrorist headquarters in Beirut, in Dahya, remains out of bounds.
Israel says the attacks on Beirut are in response to an increased volume of Hezbollah rocket and drone attacks, as well as some rocket attacks that have reached a bit farther into Israel, not just.
But Lebanon's a democracy. I support Hezbollah, but the claim Lebanese people support Hezbollah is false. You have to listen. I said the Lebanese people support Hezbollah, or Hezbollah. So first of all, I said that Hezbollah represents the interests of the Lebanese people insofar as they have an interest to not be invaded and conquered by Israel. Do you disagree with that? Do you think the Lebanese people, by and large, support the idea of being invaded and conquered by Israel? Because if the Lebanese government was the one who was the only one who had a say, it already would have happened. Hezbollah is the only reason why Lebanon is an Israeli territory.
Right along Israel's northern border.
That's a fact, by the way. That's a fact. That's literally a fact, by the way. I don't know if you, like, multiple times, Hezbollah has held the line against Israeli aggression into Lebanon. I don't know, like, that's not, it's an inarguable fact of the world, you know?
There. Israel, over the course of the past several weeks, has occupied a growing part of southern Lebanon. They've carried out strikes in cities like Tyre and Nabatea, which are outside.
You're acting like the Lebanese are too stupid to make their own military without Hezbollah. Oh, come on, what the fuck are you talking about? Hezbollah is massive. What are you talking about? The bigotry of low expectations of the Lebanese people not form a third military. You have Hezbollah and then the official Lebanese army, which does nothing. And then I'm a bigot for not supporting them forming a third. Hey, if the Lebanese people want to form a third military that's super effective against Israel, then I say go for it. I'm fully in favor of that. Right now, Hezbollah is the military that controls southern Lebanon, or the parts of it Israel hasn't invaded, at least, that people join up with to fight Israel, you know?
Of that occupied zone. And all of this is happening in the middle of what is supposed to be a U.S. brokered ceasefire. But on the ground, it's incredibly difficult to see any evidence of that ceasefire. Despite that, the U.S. is still trying to push forward with a political track, with diplomacy between Israel and Lebanon. And in fact, D.C. is supposed to host ambassadors from the two countries for what would be a fourth round of talks.
Weren't there interviews of Lebanese people supporting Hezbollah strictly because of Israel? I mean, yeah, that's why Hezbollah was formed. Hezbollah only exists because Israel keeps invading Lebanon. That's literally the reason they exist. They were formed in response to Israel invading Lebanon. They're invading Lebanon again. Right now, Israel is as deep into Lebanon as they have ever been. Like, as long as Israel continues to be warmongering and demonic, this is going to keep happening. No, they mean more recently there have been Christians who are pro-Hezbollah because of Israel. I mean, I'm culturally Christian, and I'm in favor of Hezbollah because of Israel. If Israel didn't exist, I wouldn't be in favor of Hezbollah, because there wouldn't really be a reason for it to exist, but Hezbollah wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Israel, so it's kind of a moot point, you know?
to try to get to a broader ceasefire agreement, as hard as that is to see from where we are right now. Nevertheless, Lebanon's president said on social media earlier that it is negotiations that are the way to end this war. He insisted negotiations are not some form of failure or surrender. It's not a quick fix. It will take time. But Lebanon's president said, again on social media, that it is the right way, and Lebanon is committed to this. He said the rocket fire that's coming from Lebanon, of course, he said, does not help. But he also says Israel's repeated strikes on Lebanon, the growing number of people killed in Israeli strikes, and Israel's growing incursion into the country are also a violation of the ceasefire and make that diplomatic track so hard to see from where we are right now.
We're following. The U.S. now says Iran fired 2 ballistic missiles at U.S. forces in Kuwait. Both were intercepted, and now Iran says it's suspending talks with the U.S. in protest of Israeli strikes in Lebanon. With us here is CNN national security analyst and former deputy director of national intelligence, Beth Zanner. What's your reaction, Beth, to Iran's latest move to suspend all these talks?
Well, we've had now 3 ceasefire violations in the Strait, according to the, in terms of U.S. strikes and retaliation over the
Been a bit more than 3.
past week since last Wednesday. But what we're seeing today is really Iran reacting to the escalation on the Lebanese front. And I don't know if viewers remember or not, but Lebanon and a cessation of hostilities, a ceasefire.
Why does the Lebanese government even exist? Why isn't Hezbollah the government? Because, again, literally, Hezbollah only exists. It's not hyperbole. Hezbollah is a military organization that was formed in response to the Lebanese government's unwillingness/inability to fight against Israel when Israel invaded. The Lebanese government is like a puppet state of the West. They are deliberately fractured, tribalistic, ineffective, and beholden to the interests of Western colonial powers. The Lebanese government is deferential to Israel, even as Israel bombs its citizens and razes its villages. It is worthless. It is designed to be worthless. At this point, it is so worthless that they have effectively ceded half the country. Hezbollah controls the southern half of Lebanon because the Lebanese government is both unwilling and unable to do anything about it, essentially. I mean, if the Lebanese government is too weak to even do anything about Israel invading their fucking country, of course they're too weak to oust, Hezbollah.
In Lebanon was supposed to be part of this package deal with the ceasefire that's going on in Iran, between the United States and Iran. And at the same time, the Lebanese front has really been heating up. And
how come Hezbollah hasn't fully toppled them yet? Because the enemy of Hezbollah is Israel. Hezbollah is not. Hezbollah might be antagonistic to the Lebanese government, but Hezbollah does not want to drag itself out, stretch itself thin and waste a bunch of resources laying siege to Beirut. Hezbollah could probably win in a prolonged engagement with the Lebanese government, but it would be incredibly fractious and brutal and bloody. Hezbollah is primarily motivated by a desire to fight Israel down in the south.
during this whole ceasefire period, the Israeli Defense Forces have killed 800 to 900 Hezbollah fighters. They have struck Beirut. And
there's that Crusades castle they took.
Today, Netanyahu announced they're going to strike Beirut again. Lebanese are driving out of that southern part of Beirut, which is Hezbollah stronghold. And so there is a lot going on in that front, and it's a key barrier to getting an agreement now.
Well, interesting. Now, what are the civilian casualties? Remember, by the way, that Israel's goals in Lebanon are explicitly genocidal. They are razing villages. You can take a look. There's you can find the articles where they show the before and after. They are leveling villages down to dust. They want Lebanon. Netanyahu is talking about seizing a deeper grip on Lebanon. Like, they are going to do to it what they're doing to the West Bank. They are already doing it. They are already setting up the buffer zone shit. They're already doing it. Israel has no intention of letting go of the land it's taken, which is the reason why the ceasefire with Iran would never hold. Even if America was willing to do everything else Iran wanted, unblockade the Strait, unsanction Iran, give them reparations money, allow them to keep their uranium, etc., one of the conditions is that Israel stop molesting Lebanese children, and they can't stop doing it. They won't stop doing it, so it's not going to stop. That's it.
In all these developments, Beth, could we see a return to all-out fighting right now between the U.S. and Iran?
We can't rule it out. I think at this point, Iran is using what it has is real leverage, right? Iran has always had leverage on multiple fronts. They added a new one with the Strait of Hormuz, and they have said now publicly that now they could forcibly close the entire strait again, blockade it over the.
They already are. No oil is moving through the strait. It's already blockaded, or
last 3 weeks, the United States has helped guide 70 ships through there. That's about 3 a day versus over 100 a day before the war. They're saying we could shut that down, and we could also shut a nearby choke point, which is controlled by a kind of an overlook by the Houthis, and that's the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. That would close the traffic that would go through the Suez. So they have that.
I'm surprised Israel hasn't raised the castle since it's made by Gentiles. Nah, they see themselves in Crusaders. Israel is a white supremacist country. They see the Crusades as like an abstract representation of the white West destroying Muslims. So they sympathize with it. They like it. They see themselves in it. Not that the Crusaders would be too hyped up from, hell where they belong, knowing that their, cultural legacy is being carried on by the state of Israel.
They have the proxies, and then we have new reports of them digging out their underground missile sites where probably 1,000 missiles still remain. So Iran is telling the United States, look, you sent back this tougher deal. We're hearing reports. We don't know what the details are, but we have leverage too, and we're not going to capitulate. We want the cessation of the Israeli growing offensive in Lebanon.
The Israelis say...
I thought they were more like Jewish supremacists. They're a mix of Jewish and white supremacists, but the people who run Israel and the most fervent ethno-nationalists in Israel are oftentimes not even religiously Jewish. So it's not really a theocracy. It's in the same way that, like, Iran is ostensibly a theocratic government, but power is held for political reasons, not really religious reasons. It's not the Vatican City, We're not talking about people whose authority is really a product of their, hierarchy in the religious order. We're talking about functionally a white supremacist settler colonial state with a strong in-group preference. If there is an element of explicit Jewish supremacy, it is almost entirely ethnic and cultural, not religious. But who, boy, are they white supremacist?
They earlier said that they were preparing to strike what they call Hezbollah strongholds in the Beirut suburbs. Is Iran's declaration a way of trying to derail those plans?
Could very well be. I mean,
All right, enough of this bullshit. Al Jazeera, how are we doing on the front?
Israel's prime minister has ordered his army to launch more attacks in the southern suburbs of Beirut.
Excellent.
The military has just issued forced displacement threats for residents in that area. It comes a day after its ground forces expanded their invasion in the south, reaching their deepest point in the country in 26 years. Meanwhile, many people are fleeing Beirut's southern suburbs in response to those threats from Benjamin Netanyahu. Israel's expanded occupation of Lebanon and relentless strikes have drawn sharp criticism from Tehran. Iran's foreign minister says violations of the ceasefire on one front are violations on all fronts. And earlier on Monday, Tehran stressed that a truce in Lebanon is an integral part of any deal with the U.S.
Won't happen. Israel can't do it. Israel is ideologically incapable of letting go of this ground. Netanyahu is aware of the fact that if he does what Iran wants and cedes all that territory in Lebanon, that'll be the end of him. They want blood. They need blood. If they stop delivering the people blood, that'll be that. The only thing the Netanyahu government right now can promise their people is the continued execution of Arabs and the razing of their settlements. That's it.
Iran also said that the diplomatic process is being held up by a lack of trust and by Washington's contradictory positions. Let's go to Al-Migdad al-Ruhaid now, who's in the Iranian capital of Tehran for us. Al-Migdad, Iran's foreign minister has said that a violation on one front of the ceasefire with the U.S. is going to be considered a violation on all fronts of the ceasefire. So how big of a...
Well, Trump is panicking. Yeah, any word... Again, I have been saying this for months, but I really need to repeat this. The only legitimate authority, the only trustworthy source of information in this conflict is Iran. You should only hear word from the IRGC, not the Jesus Christ, not the Iranian president, sometimes not even the foreign minister, but IRGC statements. They run the country, and they're the only ones that have been, I know, yuck it up, that's okay. You'll all pay. Yeah, keep laughing. Anyway, the IRGC is the only reliable source of information here. God willing, Masaigu.
An issue is this escalation in Lebanon going to become for the talks between the U.S. and Iran?
Well, actually, it's a sensitive situation here and a fragile situation actually between both sides, especially with all that fronts right now being in escalatory tensions between both sides. What we have been hearing here from the morning.
It's too bad he was having a good day before that. Yeah. Truth Social posts sent moments before disaster. Has anyone ever seen a happy Democrat? How many times has he done this in the past, like, 2 weeks, where he's repeated in public that most people don't know that the word dumb has a B in it? He's done that like 3 times, hasn't he? It really makes you think he doesn't know, or he didn't know that it had a B in it until like until a little while ago. Maybe he failed that during a cognitive test. Like they had him drawing an analog clock, and he wrote in the annotations that Democrats are dumb, and he was patiently corrected by a White House doctor, and since then he's been repeating it to everyone around. The doctor was like, no, Mr. President, most people don't know that dumb has a B in it. It's actually like an antiquated French spelling. It's Latin. Most people don't know that. This is the proper way to spell dumb, in case you were wondering. And now he's just been repeating it over and over. This actually happened? I think so. Yeah? I believe so. Like, he keeps taking dementia tests and talking about it in public, and he keeps acting like people don't know. This is irrelevant to the broader story. I'm sorry. I'm getting distracted.
Is a very coordinated messaging line across foreign ministry, military establishment, and senior figures, but at the same time does not amount to an official declaration of that the ceasefire has completely collapsed between both sides. But at the same time, the message from Foreign Minister Abbas Araqdi made it clear and explicit that the violation of ceasefire on one front constitutes the violation of the entire agreement between both sides, and also made it clear the spokesperson of foreign ministry saying that there is no confidence right now. There is no confidence between both sides, and right now we are halting we are not going with negotiations with that confidence because there is no confidence on the ground. And the same message, also a very strong message, came from the military establishment. The spokesperson of army said that, and warning Israel of the ongoing strikes on southern Lebanon, and says that there's a heavy casualties between civilians, and warning that they cannot tolerate that if that continue. And also a very important message from Mohammed Baqir Qalibaf made it clear that what is going on right now is what he called non-compliance with the agreement between both sides that were signed on late April.
It's so fucking insane that the first thing that Trump went out there with after all this broke was that he was going to, quote, ask Netanyahu what was going on with Lebanon. That's so fucking crazy. I cannot believe that was his opener to this. Like, he wakes up to the sound of the fucking, sirens blaring in the Oval Office. People are freaking the fuck out. And this is what he puts out there. Genuinely like a community manager going, I'll ask my boss. It's a little bit worrying, too, because we know that he has no filter at all. And it does make you wonder, like, does he know Israel's invading Lebanon? Even if he's told stuff like that, does he retain the information? Does he remember? It's very possible. Like, we have no idea what the world looks like to Trump. I really wish somebody could sit him down and be like, hey, we're going to, like, go over everything. Let's see what you know. Give him, like, a map to fill in the Middle East. Ask him, hey, like, what's the name of the Iranian president? What's going on here? Where are Israeli forces in Lebanon? And just like find out how much he knows or doesn't know. I don't know if I'd be more frustrated with Israel or Iran at this point. From Trump's perspective, I mean, if anything, Iran is the only one fair dealing him. Iran's been consistent and honest with him, as have they with all of us. And Israel has done nothing but lie and backstab. Israel's supposed to be our ally, but all they do is undermine our interests, whereas Iran is a straight dealer with us, even though they're our enemy. It's difficult to not hate Israel. Israel is a very, very, very hateable country. Anyway, we got to move on, man. There's a lot more to this. This is just Maybe don't use the specific word backstab. Why not? That's all Israel does. They literally, what have they ever done for us? Like, really think about it. In the history of Israel, what have they ever done for us? Like, we do so much for them. We fall on the sword for them. We void our First Amendment rights for them. We give them money. We give them weapons. We give them coverage from the United Nations. What have they done for us? What have they offered us? I mean, the connotation. What connotation? I understand what you're saying here, but I feel like what you're, and I'm not saying you're trying to do it, but I feel like it's anti-Semitic to suggest that, like, it's a connotation you should avoid because Israel is in any way. I need you guys to understand, man, okay? When I think of Israel, I just think of, like, a group of tech oligarchs and white supremacists with ties to America raping Arabs. Like, that's what I think of, okay? I genuinely don't have the connection. The Zionists want me to have the connection. They want me to think like, you know, Israel, Zionist, Jew. I just don't. I never will. I grew up in LA. You know, I grew up surrounded by Jews, just fucking regular ass people. They're in, you know, it's true. They're all over Hollywood, you know. I made a bunch of friends. I just don't fucking care. I'm not playing this game where I'm going to pretend that I'm like walking a tightrope when in reality Zionists are mostly Christian evangelicals and they're the most evil people alive. I just don't like, to me, I don't want to pretend that it's a delicate topic because I really don't think it is, man. When people are being anti-Semitic, I think for the most part, it's like super obvious. Like that guy that talked to Andrew Callahan from Channel 5 where he was like, your last name is Bolshevik. You know, that was, I think usually you can tell when a person is anti-Semitic, or at the very least they're, you know, they get confident with their language. But I just don't, I don't want to tightrope it. I don't want to pretend that it's like a tough call or whatever, you know? I think the issue is most Jews are Zionist. For one, depends on the definition of Zionist. The average young Jewish person in America is like rabidly anti the state of Israel. For two, I don't care. Who cares? Every Jew could be Zionist. What does that have to do with anything? If we lived back in the 1950s, would you believe that racism is innately white and whiteness is innately racist just because the average white person is racist? What is that? These are spurious correlations. The innate or anti-inherency talking points persist no matter what amount of overlap there is between, you know, a position and an identity. Yeah, the anti-fundamentalist talking points. Again, just by raw numbers, the average Zionist is a Christian evangelical who lives in Louisiana. Don't fall for it. This transcript from the CNBC interview with Trump is unhinged. I don't care if Iran negotiations are over. I'm going to ask Netanyahu what's going on with Lebanon. Trump said he wasn't worried about oil prices. Well, he has said that. Oh, it's audio? He called in? Sorry, I thought it was like
President Trump, what can you tell us?
Kelly, that's right. I called President Trump a short time ago, and he picked up to talk about...
Okay, it's not recorded audio. Just take it away, sure. What did he say in response to hearing the war's back on with Iran?
The negotiations over the weekend with the Iranians. We had this report at the top of the day today that the Iranians were actually breaking off negotiations with the United States. That moved oil markets. And so that's what I asked the president about. I said, do you think the negotiations are over now, or is this a bluff by the Iranians? The president said, I don't care if they're over, honestly. I really don't care. I couldn't care less. If they're over, they're over. If they're not, you know, I think they took too much time. Frankly,
the UFC arena, man, unimaginable, like, century of humiliation. Can you imagine, like, it would be like if the British had built an opium factory at the front door of the fucking hidden fortress or whatever, the Forbidden Palace. Like, it's not enough that the country decay. Like, they need to desecrate our national landmarks.
I think they started to get a little boring.
You know what I'm talking about.
The president said he thinks that the Iranian side was tapping us along. That is, that they were stalling for time. Ultimately, on oil prices, the president was confident that he said oil will be dropping like a rock. He said, ultimately, if the Iranians want to try and have a nuclear weapon, I will blow them up to kingdom come. He said what this is all about for him is a strongly held conviction that the Iranians should not ever be allowed to have a nuclear weapon, and that American voters will tolerate higher gas prices as long as they know what the goal is here. I also asked him about Netanyahu and the Israelis. I asked, it seems to be that the Iranians are saying they're not going to negotiate until Israel stops attacking in Lebanon. Have you talked to Netanyahu about it? I asked the president. He said, this is about 40 minutes ago, he said, no, but I'm going to ask him what's going on with Lebanon. They've been fighting for a long time.
So fucking humiliating, dude. It's so fucking embarrassing. to be a MAGA Republican and to just...
Now, since our call, just in the past couple of minutes, we've seen a report on Reuters that crossed the wires a short time ago, suggesting that the president has now called Netanyahu to discuss that. But at the time that he and I spoke, he suggested that, in fact, they had not talked yet. So then I asked him, what is the end game here in terms of the Strait of Hormuz? How ultimately are we going to get out of the situation that we're in? The president said he thinks that NATO should come in and help the United States out. He said they're the ones. He said, we don't use the strait. We don't need it. We have a lot of oil. And I said, have you talked to anybody at NATO about that? Have they changed their tune on coming in to help the United States in the strait? He said they would if I wanted to, but we don't need them. We don't need NATO. They were very weak and very sad. And the last thing I would leave you with is this idea of, where we go from here. I asked the president, when all this is over, how do you bring this to an end if negotiations are not happening and the ceasefire is in place? I asked him, is it time to end the ceasefire? And the president said, we'll see. Let's say...
Just nothing, just genuine. He has no idea what's going on. Nothing. He did no committed answers because he does not know. He doesn't know. He has no idea.
I knew exactly what what you're asking me to do, and I sort of do know it. Why would I tell you? So the president there suggesting that he does have a plan that he's not going to talk to the media about, naturally, to end this situation. But clearly...
Iran isn't in NATO, is it? I'm muting you. You have to go to DuckDuckGo. Stop making my chat look bad. You can't be doing that. Chat's on screen. You could be doing that if chat wasn't on screen, but you gotta... Sometimes you have to pitch it to Google before you pitch it to the public, okay?
The president suggesting that he doesn't care
I'm
that
deporting
negotiations
you to
have wound
DuckDuckGo.
down with the Iranians, and he thought that the Iranians stringing the U.S. along in the first place and that those negotiations took too long. So there you have the U.S. response, Kelly, to what we saw this morning from the Iranian side saying that they were breaking off negotiations.
Just phenomenal stuff, really. Yeah, I don't know. This has disastrous consequences for the oil inventories, which we'll talk about in a second.